Hello everyone, welcome back. As the title says, the match is over. Magnus Carlsen has won the game and the World Chess Championship title after Jan Nepomniachtchi blundered yet again. This was game 11. The match ended 3 games earlier than expected. It was scheduled for 14 games. So let's get right into it. Jan had the white pieces. He plays e4. I actually predicted he would play 1c4. But instead he opts for not the Spanish opening, but the Italian opening with bishop c4. So as I just mentioned, he's played the Spanish opening before. Now he plays the Italian opening. As black, he's played the Petrov. It's also called the Russian defense. And of course, he played the English opening with 1c4. And even in the candidates, the tournament he won that earned him the right to challenge Magnus. As black, he played 1e6, which is French defense. So clearly Nepo is a man of the world, but unfortunately he was definitely not the man of this match. Just nothing seemed to go right for him after that fatal Game 6 marathon loss. So Magnus plays knight f6, and here he actually opens what you might know as the fried liver attack. However, this opening is known to be okay for black after the moves d5, ed5, knight a5. So latest word on theory is that d3 is the main move for white, which is what Nepo chose. And I'm not going to comment too much on this. The Italian opening is extremely intricate, so many move orders and subtleties. There's been many books written about it, and I can spend hours going into all the details. But as usual, we want to focus more on the middle game and critical moments. So I'll just relay what Fabiano said. Fabiano Caruana, who was the 2018 challenger to Magnus, and doing a really excellent commentary during this match. He said that Magnus chose a very sort of healthy and logical way to develop his pieces, but Nepo seems to have not prepared this opening so deeply. It seems to have been a spur of the moment decision, not something he prepared in advance. He didn't find the maximum pressure, a way to put the maximum pressure on Magnus. So yeah, as I said, I'm just going through the opening. Maybe this was instructive. Magnus could have went for bishop e6 right away, but he didn't want to really create any imbalances at all. He decides to take the time to recapture with the rook, maintain the perfect pawn structure. Jan Nepomniachtchi is still slightly better here, but it's very slight. It's very close to equal. But that is sort of what the Italian is. It's white has a very slight edge and tries to make something out of it. Fabiano actually had a very... I actually thought this was the highlight of the game, just hearing his remark about this. I think this was during the live commentary. But he suggested queen b5 with the idea that if black captures the queen, so just to be clear, Nepo chose knight h2, but Fabi suggested queen b5 with the idea that if black captures the queen, black's now left with this backwards pawn. So white has an improved pawn structure. If black, say, plays rook d8 and recaptures with the rook, white actually has b4, and now these rooks are misplaced. And what I found they're misplaced, and maybe white can crash through on the queen side. So these rooks are sort of caught off guard here. But the remark that I really liked was, so in both of these positions, after rook d8 and queen takes b5, the queens are traded off. Now, one may think that this is a simplification and it reduces the winning chances for white. But what Fabi said was that, actually in his experience, and I totally agree with this, is that endings are often more, require more precision. There's less room for error. That's because with such few pieces on the board, you can simplify into a position that you can calculate to the very end. So the variations are very forcing. You need to be calculating very deeply, whereas in the middle game, there's not really forced variation. It's more of a strategic maneuvering game with some variations and tactics that you need to be mindful of. But in the ending, sort of one imprecision can lose you the game. So in that respect, actually trading queens can still be a great winning attempt. I think queen b5 is what should have been played. However, Yan chose knight h2, and this was also very instructive. How before making any pawn push in the center, Magnus brings his rook into the game, centralizes all his pieces. It's very good positional chess. He's patient, wants to put his pieces on the best squares before making an active push. Now after d5, Yan counters with d4, an interesting move. Now actually the play does become pretty sharp. Black can capture in two ways. So Yan chose e takes d4. If de, this was also possible and fine. Just Magnus had to choose this queen e8. It's very important to keep the eye on this pawn on e5. If white plays knight c4 to protect his pawn and threaten to capture on e4, black captures on d1, queen takes d1, and now knight c6. Rook takes d4, now knight e5, so you see the point of the queen on e8. Black is in time to recapture the pawn, and we have an equal position. However, Magnus chose to play e takes d4 this way, and it actually turned out to be the right choice because Yan got confused and he just blundered away the match. Of course, it was basically impossible for him to score 3.5 out of 4, but he could have kept it. He didn't need to go out like this. He didn't need to just hand Magnus yet another victory. He could have extended the match for one more game, and who knows, somehow as the match gets closer to the end, Magnus is going to become more and more nervous because he doesn't want to be the guy that loses 3 in a row. So as a tournament player myself, they say the hardest game to win is the one game, and similarly, I think you can say that the hardest match to win is the one match. So Nepo just it's really disappointing. Maybe I'll just pause here because I'm on the topic, but chess fans were really disappointed with this match. I don't think we've ever seen such a complete collapse, especially because Nepo is such a great player. And he fought well in the first 6 games. In the first 6 games, he just lost the 6th game. But he just started basically like it was Halloween, just giving out candy to Magnus, just serving him wins on a silver platter. Magnus didn't even need to play well. That's what's sort of sad, is that we didn't really actually see brilliance from Magnus because he was never forced to do that when Nepo was just blundering away. So it is what it is. Of course, Nepo didn't want to do this, but nevertheless, it's still disappointing. So after rook e4, queen c2, it's important that Black actually can't take on d5 because rook takes d4, and this pin is going to be decisive. You're going to double the rooks and then win material. So Magnus had to play his very accurate move, rook e4, and now after queen c2, again, if you take on e3, I can take your rook and I'm up material, and if you again take on e3, I just take on e4. But Magnus finds the only move, but it's more than good enough. As Fabiano said, rooks, you don't usually see them on f4. Throughout this match, you usually see rooks on the central squares on the last ranks. But Magnus has this creative maneuver to f4, and somehow it confused Yan. He miscalculates yet again, and g3 immediately throws away the game in one move. D takes e3, gf4, and now queen takes g4 check. And sorry, just to point out what Yan should have played, just rook takes d4. As mentioned before, throughout this match, Yan, for some reason, does not play the simple move. He always wants to play some more complicated variation, and here he just has to play rook takes d4, and they'll soon agree to a draw. After queen takes c7, queen takes d4, just b3, equal material. They could they'll agree to a draw pretty soon. So it was just that simple. He just had to recapture the pawn. It's really, like any like I would have made this move when I was like not to you know just I think just to really illustrate how shocking it is. Like I would have made this move when I was say 12 years old, when I was just you know gaining some mastery of chess. It's just because it's just the obvious move, and maybe the point is that you understand how risky this is. It's not that you don't see that you can maybe capture the rook, but it's just that anyone understands that when you're allowing your king to be open, you need to be extra cautious. So it's not that Yan, I think he just let his guard down, or there's maybe not even any point trying to rationalize it. But in some ways, this G3 was in some ways the worst blunder, because you're knowingly, like, it's not even about miscalculation. It's just you're allowing your king to be subject to an attack. So yeah, in some ways, this was the worst move of the match, G3. So after queen takes G4, checking F1, queen H3. If white tries to run with the king, this is what happened in the game. Sorry, after queen H3, this is the game continuation. Nepo played king G1. If king E2, there's E takes F2. If king takes, there's queen H2 check. This is a skewer, picking up the queen. And if the rook moves somewhere, just the knight comes in, and then it's still it's not immediately obvious like the direct win, but it's basically that the rook, the knight, and the queen and this open king are a recipe for disaster. So your rook is going to come in with check. It's going to come in through here. The knight can always recapture material. It's just by intuition, you know that white's not going to survive. So Yan decides to go back to G1, and here actually Magnus with a big inaccuracy. He could have actually ended the game if he plays E takes F2 check. Again, king takes F2, this important tactic, the skewer, picking up the queen. White is forced to play queen takes F2, and now just rook D6. This is an important, we call this a rook lift, and the rook is coming to G6, and yeah, I think no one would have been, everyone would have expected Yan to just resign here. Queen G2, there's rook G6 pinning, and if rook takes E7, again rook G6 check. The queen's forced to block, and then it's checkmate. Yeah, you can try F5 to guard the square. Knight takes F5. You can even give this bite check, but you're just delaying the inevitable. Again, the rook, you can't stop the rook from coming to G6. So the game Yan would have been forced to resign after rook D6. It's really shocking Magnus didn't play this. I guess everyone was saying he was getting nervous. But of course, his position is so winning that even inaccuracies still allow him to retain his advantage. Yan plays this nice move D6. Point being that if rook takes D6, now you can trade off that dangerous rook. So Magnus chooses knight H4. He's threatening queen G2 checkmate. F takes E3, queen G3 check. And now he played queen G2, and all the commentators, everyone sort of brushed king E2 aside. And I thought it was also not, the variation given is, everyone said that this queen ending is just completely winning for black, which is true. Black is winning. Black has the extra pawn as well as the more active queen dominating the other queen. However, I think this actually gave more practical chances than the rook ending. It's just my opinion. I was just playing around with something like E4, queen H1 check, king D2, queen takes E4, queen takes B6, queen takes F4 check, and something like a position like this. You're down 2 pawns, but at least you have some counterplay. You have some counterplay with this passed pawn. Black also has to be careful not to allow a perpetual check. Actually, you're threatening a forced draw right now. So I think actually this, again, you're losing either way, but I think in some ways this would have been the more practical try. What happened was Nepo ended up going for the rook endgame instead of the queen endgame, and yeah, this pretty much this is pretty clinical. The rook is always active on this rank because that's where a lot of the weak pawns will be. Nepo is forced to defend, and now really nice move g6. There are some variations where if the alternative was to play h5, there are some variations where this pawn might be weak. So Magnus, follows one of the important principles in the endgame, which is do not hurry. So he takes his time, wants to prepare h5, and now rook a2. So targeting this weak pawn. Of course, Nepo played b4 to try to get some active counterplay. And now Magnus goes for h5. Jan tries the final desperation attempt. Now this important nice tactic, rook b3 check. This rook is what we call overloaded. It has to capture the rook, but now it's not going to be guarding the queening square anymore. So Magnus queens, and a few more moves have been played. And now Nepo finally resigns. The rook is forced to go to a6, and now you can just collect this pawn, and white is just stuck, going nowhere. It's just completely over after queen c5. And Magnus resigned after, Jan Nepomniachtchi actually resigned the game and the match with after queen c5. And Magnus Carlsen has won his fifth World Chess Championship title. I believe the next World Chess Championship match will be in 2022. They're going to have the candidates tournament probably around March to determine who challenges Magnus. That's going to be a very exciting tournament. And as I mentioned before, this World Chess Championship match usually happens every 2 years. But because of COVID and the pandemic, this match which should have happened in 2020 got pushed a year later. So we're lucky because we should get another match relatively soon. So I think I expressed already my sadness about the disappointment of the match earlier. So I think we'll wrap it up here. I really hope you enjoyed the commentary. Thanks for watching the videos. I'll definitely be back with more content. So stay tuned. Thanks for your support. Please don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and like the video. That would help me a lot. And if you have any thoughts on the format, maybe your thoughts on the match, what your favorite games were, moments, I'd love to hear from you. If not, I'll see you in the next video. I definitely got a lot of stuff in the works, so can't wait to share that with you. Bye.